Coach V Show.
Welcome to the Coach V Show, your show for personal development with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we work to be our best and live our best life. And bringing to you success frameworks, behavioral models, and life lessons for your considerations to achieve and then succeed in what you want to in life, leadership, and business. But not only just for the sake of success, but to translate that success into the joy, peace, happiness, fulfillment, love, and family time that I call the juice of life. Today, I am so excited here on the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron, together we rise, powered by Island City, where the beach meets the streets, to bring from the Southern Hemisphere a power player in the Polynesian movement, the Pasifika people, and all the occurrences down in the Southern Hemisphere and abroad. I have brother Andrew Faavale, who is Samoan, born and raised in New Zealand and now residing in Australia. He has a degree in law, a research master's in education. In his younger years, Andrew used rugby to travel the world and played or coached in countries such as England, Hong Kong, and the United Arab Emirates, and has worked in equally diverse sectors such as coaching, meditation, higher education, and community development. Andrew now leads a nonprofit organization, Mana Pasifika, which aims to support Pasifika peoples in Australia to thrive. Mana Pasifika runs mentoring programs in community and schools, published Australia's first online in Pasifika cultural training to educate government and community works on how to effectively engage Pasifika communities and assist governments and councils with policy and strategy. Inspired by the passing of his late dad, Andrew quit his job in 2018 and jumped headfirst into business, starting a number of ventures and scaling out a seven-figure cha-ching from scratch within a couple of years. Andrew is married to Nicola, and they have 3 children and another on the way. Despite popular opinion and advice stating that one should never muddy business and family, specifically marriage, Andrew and Nicola work together in all their ventures and are enjoying the ride. I am honored and pleasured to beat the brother, to bring on my show the brother that introduced me, Coach V, to the Southern Hemisphere, brother Andrew Faavale. Andrew Faavale, welcome to the Coach V Show.
Thanks, Coach V, man. It's good to be back in touch, just vibing off your energy again. It was awesome to have you on my show on the podcast that I was doing. And now it's good to have the tables turned, bro. I really appreciate the time.
Oh, I do appreciate, man. This is the brother that introduced me to New Zealand, Fiji, Australia, even Tonga. I got people calling me from Tonga going, hey, I saw you on Andrew's show. So it is my honor and pleasure to really have a person that's a power broker, not for himself, but for our people and the people of Pasifika. And so in that, Andrew Faavale, help me, help the world that's listening, help the listening audience, both from Dash Radio, my Facebook Live, right, on Island City Media Group, and everyone who tunes in from around the world on multiple platforms. Introduce us to yourself and tell us, what is your genesis point, Andrew?
Awesome, man. So like I said in the bio, I'm Samoan. I like to see myself as Samoan by blood, a Kiwi by birth, and an Aussie by choice. So, you know, I guess the genesis point for us people as Pacific Island people always starts before us, and it starts before we were born, whether it's a cultural perspective or a faith perspective. We're just extending the legacy of so many people who have already come before us. So my genesis point anyway, in terms of my own life on this earth, my parents migrated from Samoa, you know, when they're in their 20s, and they went to New Zealand and they met over there. They met in an area called South Auckland, which is densely populated by Pacific people, and they settled in a suburb called Manurewa. I really can't give you an equivalent of the States, and it's the Polynesian capital of the world. South Auckland and Manukau City. And so there were just so many migrants who had come across. And, you know, the migrant story is often a beautiful story. It's a story of people intrinsically motivated to get to another place and get to another place to improve their situation and their family situation. Unfortunately, though, for many of the Pacific people, they were taken to New Zealand for a cheap labor source. And when opportunities and jobs dried up, then they were sent back, often labeled overstayers, and there was this narrative. So the narrative in New Zealand for Pacific Island people hasn't really been that positive. But I really think that we're big players in that place, and we're big players on the global circuit. So I'm really grateful for my parents who migrated from, you know, the comforts of their village life to seek a better life for themselves and also for the people who came after them. So I was born and raised in New Zealand. I have three siblings. I'm the youngest. Both of my siblings were educators, so they're both teachers. And incidentally, they both married educators. So I'm kind of the black sheep there in that I went down the path of law school. I went to university to do law school, but all throughout that path, I wasn't really interested in being a lawyer. It just didn't really align to what I was passionate about and what I was really made for. So, yeah, man, just the youngest of a smallish Samoan family. My dad was a steel mill worker for over 30 years. So he used to weigh the steel in the big ass steel mill and called Pacific Steel, and a lot of Pacific people were employed there. Man, the guy used to work 16-hour shifts in his steel caps and his and his and you know, in this dusty ass place, and he did that for 30 years. We didn't have a car at one point, or maybe we had just one car, and he used to ride a bike from Manurewa to Otahu or Mangere, where it is. And man, there was no motorway through there. It probably took him 2 hours to ride a bike and then 2 hours back. And, you know, those kinds of stories and those kinds of memories were cool because, you know, if there's kind of a standard that I have to work to, it's how hard are you working in comparison to your old man and my mom. And, you know, it was cool. And he used to wear those steel caps and jump on his bike. But then he used to come home and he used to be tired. And, you know, he used to get a little bit frustrated. And those steel caps used to end up on our shins sometimes. So, you know, so he was a hardworking man, but he's also a hard man, but he had a big heart and he was really driven for success as kids. And we all knew that, that's what was going on. Mum was nurturing and staying home and looking after us. She worked as well a little bit later, but dad was really the main income earner. And this is not a story that's unique to us. This is a very common story for people like us. But I guess it's very special to us to reflect on the things that our parents and our grandparents might have done so that we can be in the positions we're in. So yeah, man, that's a little bit about my family. Dad ended up being made redundant from that steel mill, and he went into taxi business, driving taxis. At one stage, he had a fleet of about 5 or 6 taxis, so he was doing well. But maybe on the other side, he just didn't have the business nous and the financial literacy to really take it through. So it didn't end up that well for him. He got a little bit, he got sick, he got dementia, and unfortunately, he passed on a couple of years ago. My mum, on the other hand, she worked in a convenience store, which was a wholesaler to shops, and then at one stage she drove buses, and then she drove taxis with my dad. They worked together, which is what we're doing, but they had an experience, and yeah, man, they just worked hard. They just worked hard to get us into a good education. They sent my brother and I into a grammar school in the middle of town, which was like 50 k's away. They paid for the bus every month. They paid for our school fees and all the extracurricular stuff. And, you know, we're really reaping the fruit of what they sowed. So, yeah, man, that's me. Just really grateful for my parents and the people who have come before, and also my siblings.
So in that, let's unpack some life lessons, and you tell us, including me, because I want to learn. like what are the life lessons, success frameworks, and the behavioral models that you learned? Let's start from as a child, and you're saying that they paid extra, made sure that you had an education well outside of the neighborhood in which you dwelled or was your neighborhood in which you lived. And what are the life lessons that you learned? One, being almost an out of towner, right? But going to school somewhere where all the other kids were probably close by school. And how was that the immigrant story, the Pasifika story of trying, as you said, intrinsically motivated? What are some of the life lessons that you'd like to share with myself and the listening audience about that struggle?
I guess, man, there's just one is hard work, and hard work as a habit. My dad, just going to work for 16 hours, that's just hard work, and that's just habitual. And he was doing it for us. It wasn't fun work, man. We used to go and visit him, and it was fun for us as kids. But now, as an adult, I imagine what it was like. It was just really the industrial revolution, that industrial kind of farming job, but inside a factory now.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he coped with that, and he handled that because he had a bigger vision. So hard work underneath a big vision will really bear fruit. And he tried to instill in us these kind of habits that would enable us to succeed in our time. And so he used to
Mm-hmm.
wake us up early. We had to read books before we left for school. We
Hmm.
had to run around the house barefoot like 32 times. And if he was working in the morning, he'd call us at 7:30 and he'd check in, have you read your books? And have you run around the house? And was it 32 times? And how long did it take? It was these little things that I know that he always rammed home. And he always rammed home also just the importance of education. And obviously I went to university and stuff like that, but beyond the university and the substance of what I learned, I just really learned curiosity, and
Mm.
I learned to question and to critically analyze things and to see if that fit the way that I was raised, and to always just be critical in terms of what was going on in and around me. So I'm really grateful that those little things that he's embedded in me have continued well beyond into my adult life.
And how did that help you? How did this hard work, right, with vision, like that's how I heard you say it, hard work with vision bears fruit. So now you've finished grammar school or primary school, and now you're starting to play sports. How did that framework of hard work with vision bear fruits? And then with this sprinkle of curiosity, and you use the word critical, which I call awareness, right? Being aware, but then I'm very hypercritical about the life lessons or the life paths that I take before I take it. So we're talking now hard work with vision bears fruits. Now you went from primary school, now you're in older. What are the lessons that you learned by applying that?
Yeah, I guess, man, just to go back to the last part of that other question around going to the grammar school 40 Ks away,
Yeah,
40
yeah.
kilometers away. Like I said at the front, where I was raised, there were a lot of brown people, there were a lot of islanders, there were a lot of Pasifika people. So that was a comfort zone. So hit 13 and I'm sent out to this grammar school, and there's just a sprinkling of us. And I felt
That's
really
right.
uncomfortable at that stage. And that discomfort was even heightened even more because we were actually streamed from A to K or whatever it was in terms of what they said was intelligence. And in my class, man, there were had well, I was the only brown guy in the class, and that was really uncomfortable. I didn't really understand the bilingual view. I didn't really understand what was going on. But I see those as some of the best memories and the best lessons that I've actually learned, because I learned that through the discomfort, once I made sense of what was going around me in terms of the cultures in the class and the way they saw the world, I actually found out maybe by 17 uh, that really we're all, despite our culture, despite our color, we're all
The
just people.
same.
We're all the same, man.
That's right,
And
brother.
initially, man, I actually rubbed up against it, and I just took everything that I was kind of suspicious of them, and I thought that they were being racist for everything that they were saying, and they might have just been, you know, murmuring and between each other. And I was thinking, oh, they're talking about me. They're talking about how different I am, and stuff like that, man. So I'm glad I got that experience early
Right.
on, because then I got to see that some of my lifelong mates are these people from rich areas, and I got a great network. And I just got people, even the islanders in that school, we all came from far away. So we all had this commonality of we're all different. And we without speaking it, man, we actually realized we're all different because our parents had a bigger vision for us. They
Mm.
all sent us to the school because they all had this, rightly or wrongly, they all had this assumption that this school would make us better. And whether that was right or wrong, they believed that, and we knew that our parents just cared. And that's a special thing, man. So that creates a special bond. I might be going 20 Ks. My best mate Tongan from a place called Glen Innes, and that was like 20 Ks away. And that's how we would hang. We would go and drive there, or we'd do different around the local neighborhood. So we always felt a little bit different, but we also by nature, by default, felt really special. And this is the fruit of a parent's love and their decisions.
Oh, wow. Wow. The irony, right? The irony is that you became aware that you are very different, but ironically, we're all still the same, in terms of the human nature, our desires. People still dream, hope, and aspire for things. And regardless of anybody's economic situation, whether in the States or Australia, whether you're brown or you're white. And what I'm not saying here is, and I think Andrew would agree, that systemic racism is still around. We're not saying that doesn't occur, that biases that don't occur. But what we're saying is, and I love how you said that, is like, ironically, with all that being said, we're all the same. I love how you said that and you shared that. So continue. You've learned some life lessons there, created valuable relationships, a network that you could still draw from. And what came after that? Your primary school, you got older, 13, 14, 15. What came after for Andrew Faavale?
Yeah, so um, I always knew that I was going to university after that. Like I said, my parents really rammed home the importance of education. And my sister went through to uni, and she's now an educator. My brother went through, did science. So, there's data around that, first and family is probably the hardest. But after that, you've got these role models to be able to navigate the educational system. You've got these role models that you can aspire to do the same thing. Stories in your house that kind of mold your vision. And so I always knew that I was going to go to university. It was just down to what I was going to study. And at
Mm.
school, I studied all the sciences. But when I came out, I was thinking of doing physiotherapy because I was really passionate about rugby union and, rugby in general at that time. And I thought physio would keep me around the rugby environment. But then I found out it was going to be over the North Shore. So that would have been an extra, I don't know, 20 minutes drive. And I thought, man, I'm already sick of going to town.
Right,
So
right, right.
I probably won't go to class if I go down that route. So I went and applied for the law school, and I made it in. So I went into that, and I did arts on the side, but I dropped it. Although arts was the most interesting of all my topics. But yeah, I struggled at university because I just felt that the law school felt a little bit elitist at that
Yeah.
time. At that time, I really struggled with the journey through law school. It kind of heightened my otherness, and at that time I was navigating with negotiating with identity and who I was, and how, the Samoan kid, and where does that lead in a law environment? And a lot of my mates, well, a lot of the people at law school were dressing like lawyers, even at law school, and I really struggled with that. You
Right,
know,
right, right.
yeah, I struggled with just the culture of the law school, and so I quit many times and decided in between to travel overseas. When I came out of school, I actually played. I was playing rugby. I was really passionate about rugby. I was lucky enough to play age grade rugby for Auckland, which is a city that has a really good rep team. Um, and then I played a game. I played a game just for fun, and I broke my leg. And the doctor said, "Man, that's it. You're done." And from there, that kind of really shaped the rest of my life, really, because I had so much, like a lot of these kids coming out, whether it might be NFL or rugby over here, man, we put a lot of emphasis on it. We're so passionate about it that it's all that, or it feels like nothing. And when you don't
Yeah.
make it, um, when you don't make it, you don't make it, and you feel like you have never made it, and you will never make it, and that's your life. So even though I had other things that I could draw on, like going to uni and stuff like that, those things didn't matter to me. I was 100 and trying to make it in rugby, like so many other kids, and I realized I couldn't make it. So what I did was I kind of took the second best thing, and I thought, well, I'm going to use it as a ticket to go overseas.
Right. That's awesome. So let's talk about that for the younger listeners, because I really believe that going to university for me is the jungle where maybe in our forefathers would send a person out into the wilderness, which was the ocean, to kind of navigate and find themselves, to be able to build that self-reliance and self-confidence. Let's start there in terms of what are the life lessons that you would tell any collegiate person or person that's going to university that's confused and they feel like, oh my gosh, I can't figure it out. I'm a mess up. I'll never be anything. I'll never amount. Because that's right. Those are the feelings of that fear really is the disease that infects us. But it's okay. You tried to figure it out. You went another route, and you still ended up great. What are the life lessons of finding yourself during your university years?
Yeah, I guess university is a place to that fosters critical thinking and analysis. You're thinking about what you're thinking about, right? So when
Yeah.
you're thinking about what you're thinking about, you could get into a really, rabbit warren and think, "Oh, I'm thinking about this, but who am I in relation to that?" And there's intersections and there's things that are going on that get you stuck in your head. And I was one of these dudes. I'm a deep thinker, I think, and I got stuck in my head. But to
Right.
be honest, I think the lesson that I got is that it doesn't really matter what you study. And this is what I find now that I'm in business or now that I'm in community. Action is the key. So it's really
Say that again for the listeners. What is the key, Andrew?
you
Tell
gotta
them.
be
Tell them.
able to you gotta act, man. You gotta act. And I did a whole law degree and I don't really use it, but and really not use it because the things that you learned are embedded in you. So it might not be primarily used as a lawyer or a solicitor, but I'm using the skills of analysis and I'm using the skills of understanding how law was made and how to draft different documents. I'm using those skills in my everyday life. So if you act and you get it so-called wrong, you're still going to use the lessons, the insights, and the experiences in your life to get the place where you want to be. And that's what I've found across the course of my life.
Right. I mean, one action is better than 1,000 thinking thoughts or 1,000 intentions. Come on, Andrew, drive that home one more time for the listening audience, because there are a lot of people out there that want to change their life, but like you said, are in either a comfort zone or a financial comfort zone that they don't see another way. So then they're good with it versus putting in the action to start to come up with that exit strategy. And it's really action. Success is a noun that works better as a verb, because without action, success is just the word. Can you drive that home one more time so we are made clear what you're intending to say?
Yeah, so I'll tell you the story. So my father passed away a couple of years ago. Well, 2018. At that time, I was working at a university. And I was doing things that I thought were really important. I thought they were really cool. They were fun. I was hanging out with young people who were coming up. They were really curious and they were just vibey people. And I was really enjoying that job. But it wasn't, man. You can enjoy a job, but you might not be in your destiny. And
Mm,
destiny, man, it's not enjoyable. It's calling. So when my father passed away, I flew back to New Zealand where he passed away. And by the time I came back, I was just thinking on the plane, man, I remember my dad when he was 40 in these steel cap, boots and coming out of the steel mill. I just remembered him as that young 40-year-old, big hands and strong punches, big and strong. And man, just like in the blink of an eye, man, he was gone. And I was thinking, man, in the word it says life is a mist. And I
mm,
felt like, whoa, my life is going to be a mist. So by the time I got on that plane, I had, decided to text my boss and say, man, I'm out. I quit and I resign. And I resigned because I knew that was a great job, but that was a good job, but that wasn't the greatest job that I could have. And the greatest job that I could have was the one that I was designed for.
mm,
And so this is my roundabout way of saying, man, if you, there's many comforts that could serve you, but when you're on your deathbed, like I saw my dad on his deathbed,
mm.
I know you need to reflect on that at that moment and think, man, I actually emptied the tank, but more than that, I lived to the design of my creator.
Amen and amen. So you jump towards destiny. What came next? What came next?
Man, I had to seek out mentors. I had to seek out people. This is why I did the Global Pasifika Success podcast. I did it
Mm.
as much for other people, but selfishly, I did it mostly for me.
Yeah,
So I
you
could,
connected.
yeah, so I could meet people like you, and so I could hear your story, and so that you could keep my fire burning. And I just needed to reach out to people. I needed to upskill. I needed to understand what business was. I needed to understand financial literacy. I had to understand capitalism. Man, I was this young kid growing up, really, an anti-capitalist. Really, I used to go to the law school sometimes with, just cut jeans and no shoes, or I was kind of rugged. I was trying to make a stand against everything capitalism is. But as I've matured, I understand that capitalism is actually something that you can use in that it values value.
That's
And
right.
basically, it's about value exchange.
That's
And
right.
if I put something on the market and someone buys it, now there's a fair exchange. But before that, I was working in the community sector and I was doing heaps of things for free because this is how I
Right.
thought life had to be,
Right.
especially as a person, a Christian. And I thought I have to serve and give everything for free. But the only people who were actually paying the cost was my wife and my children because I was doing things away from them for free and I couldn't bring them any value home. And so when I understood and had a reframe of what capitalism is from my own perspective and my own experiences, then I started making products and productizing what I knew, productizing my IP, my experiences, and kind of just throwing them out there on the shelf to see who would pick them up. And if no one picked them up, that means I had to go and tweak my product or tweak my IP offering and how it was packaged.
Mm.
But nothing's actually changed. I'm still doing the same. It's it. I'm just seeing it as a value exchange now, and my family are happy, and so am I.
Yeah, right. And that's one of the things that I try to get to with my entrepreneurs that hire me. They're waiting for something better and the marketing to be better. And I always tell them, yeah, but you don't know how the market is going to respond until you deploy into the market space. Right. And then you're going to really be able to gauge and better your processes, protocols, procedures, automated tasks, how you do your marketing. Right. So, in that, what did you learn? What was the
Right.
things that you learned as you start to figure out what you call that value exchange, I call it the value proposition, right? In terms of this is the proposed value. And if the marketplace sees that, you're going to get either above market value or under market value. But the one thing the market never does, whether in Australia or these United States of America or abroad, is the market does not overpay. And if it does, it is going to adjust, right? What did you learn by deploying into the market? You said you took your products and all that. Share with us the life lessons and success frameworks that you learned as you started now deploying, remarketing, and restructuring how things are being sold and marketed so that the market would see value and attract value. Right.
So what I had to find out, man, what I had to find out was because I had all these thoughts around what the market needed.
Right.
And I'm talking about consulting here. So I used to consult on strategies and frameworks for government and for profits and stuff like that. So what I learned and what one of my mentors said was, man, just throw up a flyer, say what you're going to offer, say it's going to be on this day, and just don't do anything. Don't write the course.
Right.
Just see people come. Right. And so I did. I threw out this workshop and no one came. So I thought, okay, so that's not what they want.
That's not the course.
That's not the course. Right. So then actually, man, it was fun because then I thought, okay, let's think about what they want. And I pretended, and people will hear this, but I pretended I made a course, an online course, right? And I just threw it out there and I said, there's a 6 week course that I've created. It's online now. You can get in early, you pay this and you get this. But I hadn't made the course because why would you make it if no one was going to buy it?
Right.
Some people then bought it, maybe 4 or 5 people bought it. I said it was at $197 or something. And I said it would be dripped out weekly. So it's a 6 week course on how to engage Pacific people. But I hadn't made it. So when they started buying it, I had to start making it.
Right.
So the first week, I did the first week and I was like, yeah, I'm on. And then I'd finish the first week and then I'll be, oh man, now I've got to make the second week. And then the second week, oh man. And by the third or fourth week, man, I got kids and I got a wife and I was exhausted. And so I was like, they were, sorry, the fourth week hasn't come through. And then, man, I'll be like, let me check with IT. Right. I'll just see what's happening with the IT. And then I'll be quickly writing the fourth and the fifth and the sixth. But what I learned, man, is like you need to put yourself under pressure, but don't put yourself under pressure if you don't need to. Like, why would you make a product if no one wants it?
That's right.
And so, yeah, man. So once they started buying, I was like, oh no. Because I had sat on this to be honest, I had sat on it for a year and a half. And I was like, oh yeah, let me write it first and it'll all be perfect. And then when my dad passed away, I was like, what am I going to wait for now? So I put it up. I said, this was the price. And when people started buying it, I was like, damn, now I've got to sell it. Oh, now I've got to make it. And then one mob, they bought like 200 units, bought like 40 grand worth. And I said to my wife, and they dropped the money in. These are trade secrets.
And they already paid for it.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah, that's right.
Now we're gonna make it. And
that's
then
right.
we're on holiday in New Zealand, and the family's on holiday, but I'm making the course, man, because people dropped in some cash.
That's right. So what Andrew is speaking about is the same way that I launch my modules on empowerment to success, and really is the adage is you build the plane while you're flying, right? Yeah, and really what I was talking about, that's a real life example of you have to test the market. I get business plan. I get market numbers and data, and it says that they're supposed to do this, but you still gotta launch. And when you launch, and what about this right here? Here's the saying, right? Most of us think that life and success is like grammar school. You go to school, you learn the lesson, and then you take the test, Well, entrepreneurship is different. You take the test first, and that test teaches you the lesson. Come on, Andrew, real talk, right? Is that some real talk?
Yeah, exactly. And everything in entrepreneurship is feels like the wrong way. It's countercultural because the first thing to think about is not you, and you have
Mm,
to empathize with your market. Everything that you design has to be from the perspective of your market, and so you have to put yourself aside. You have to put your ego aside,
right,
and you
right,
have to
right.
try to get into their shoes genuinely. Otherwise, you know, how, man, no one's going to buy a plaster or a band-aid if they don't feel like they're cut. So you have
Right.
to go and communicate that they are cut. You have
Yes,
to
sir.
message that. Otherwise, you can't sell the plaster. You know what I mean? It's yeah, it's a trip.
Absolutely.
It's countercultural. It's really feels unnatural because the way we're programmed is egocentric. It's from ourselves and our point of
Very
view.
good. That's a great point because this is the irony. It's all about you. But
Yeah,
once you realize it's all about you, it's not about you anymore. In
100%.
marriage, raising kids, right? Running a nonprofit. And then as soon as you can get out of the way, the master salesmen that I'm around, in which case in their industry, I've never been an expert or an ex or have expertise in what they do. And they tell me all the time, it's like, V, the greatest thing about you is you ask questions and you stay the hell out of the way so that the sale can take place. Right? Like it's not about you. The salesmen, the great salesmen know that it's not about them. Inquiring and asking, testing the market, right? And that's what I've always loved when I first met you is that you really are an academic, but you have an entrepreneur spirit. Like you're like me. You're just like, man, I'm going to try it. I'm going to figure it out and put it all together and roll. Right. It's just like, and then now I'm gonna say that my modules, just like yours, are the same modules I've been selling for 2 years, and people are still buying them fresh every month. Right?
That's right.
Am,
Yeah.
so people are like, man, this is amazing stuff. How long have you had it? I've been coaching this same curriculum for the last 24 months. Module one, I got module 1 through 28. And then I figured out if I would just sit down and continue to write, put in the statistics, put in the current events that now make that same content come to life, right? They just love it, and not because, and my stuff doesn't work because Coach V wrote it or because I said so. This is the life lessons that life leadership in business teaches us all,
100.
right, Andrew?
Yeah.
And people are like, man, this stuff's amazing. It's like, yeah, this stuff has been around forever. Knowledge plus accountability equals empowerment. Daily habits, daily activities, daily routines, automated tasks create a flow. That flow creates momentum. That momentum actually lifts you to the next level. You become more effective and efficient in chasing your success. But because you've become what it is that you wanted through all these actions, now what it is that you want now starts chasing and is attracted to you. Come on, Andrew.
Yeah. And
Come on,
that's
Andrew.
what that's what an online course is. It's just the organization of other people's information and then with your flavor on it. We
Well, would you?
can't
That's
claim
right.
we can't claim that we made all this stuff, but what we've done is we've inserted time, we've input energy, and we've put it together in a way that lands with the people who are buying it.
That's right.
And that's, I think it's easier than we think, except a lot of people think too much and don't act and execute.
That's right. Man, I love how you say that action piece, right? And I keep telling, and just for me, right, Andrew, I think I hope you could tell, but the last time that I was on with you, I was almost 250 pounds. I'm 218 pounds right now, right? And I remind people about these daily habits, daily activities, and I train it and teach it as 21 days creates a habit, 42 days creates a life. I did 42 days straight of no dessert, eating only 2 meals with fruit for breakfast and some type of activity for 42 days. The last time I was 218 pounds was 2003. But
Holy.
actions and daily habits are so powerful that 18 years couldn't stop 42 days of consistency of action. And some days I did drink a soda. And I was like, but I didn't finish the soda. I just took a little sip, right? But I mean, that's how powerful actions are. And I think Andrew will agree with me. We're not saying to neglect the facts or the reality. We're not saying that. We're not saying to go against the common trends within the industry, right? But what we are saying is if you keep doing like 30 years of Andrew's father in the steel mill, you will create not only a life and examples for you, but for the future and the legacy of your family. Come on, Andrew, touch on that.
Yeah, 100%. And that's all it is. It's, often we just get overwhelmed with the outcome. The outcome is I'm going to have a 6-week course, or I'm going to have a 24-week course, or I'm going to have this thing. And when you do that, it's too big chunk down. But the chunking down happens in the daily, in those micro habits and those kinds of things. And the micro habit even could be the transformation of your mind. That's where that's where all micro or macro, that's where habits actually are formed or transformed or renewed, and that's where it starts. And so if you start by changing your mind and then you just change little actions, man, you're going to end up with that castle. You might think you're laying bricks, but you're actually building a cathedral or a castle. And
Amen. Amen.
sometimes it's mundane like that it's just a brick after brick. But if the vision is that cathedral or that castle, that's what you're going to end up at.
Yeah, and touch on this for the audience in terms of you creating a course that you haven't even created the course, and you tried to sell it and you built it to where all of a sudden people bought so many units of it, you're just like, oh my gosh. But it's, you don't have to do a lot of big things, because that's what people get scared of, right? I got to do this big thing. No, Andrew's just got to sit down on the freaking computer and write one word after the next word. It's the small, like you said, the micro things that add up to the big things. How much have you experienced that to be a reality?
Well, it's made even I guess it's so much easier now. Like, how hard is it to jump on canva.com and create a poster that looks like a graphic designer made it, and then just write a few things, and that's actually all you need. You just need to jump on Canva. You're acting as if you're a graphic designer, explain exactly what you're offering, get your message right to the right market, and then you're away. And so that's how simple it is. And I don't want to disregard, diminish the fact that you have to, there's some things that you have to do, but really, um, that's the crux of it, man.
Yeah,
That's all I did. I just created one poster to see if people were interested. I put a price down. I put a message down. I knew the market I was going to test, and it scale to six figures quickly, like in a matter of months.
that's right. Months, especially when you start writing down the price points and you do what's called exact knowledge, right? Like for me, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to make $100,000 off of this one group, of this one cohort of new clients for this month, right? Then you go, okay, $499 times 17 for 12 months is 100 grand. When you start breaking it down, right? Right, Andrew?
Yeah,
When you really start breaking it down like that, and then you go, okay, $40,000 a year times 25 clients is $1 million, right? But you won't ever figure that out unless you try. And what Andrew was saying about thinking, like, I'm like, well, would anybody buy a $40,000 course from Coach V? Then I'm like, well, let's find out. Because there's too much money involved, and not just the money portion. Because I get the fact that we're talking about some dollars and figures, and some Polynesians think that's like that's bragging, and
yeah.
I get it. I get it. But this is what we're saying: is what the money translates into joy, peace, happiness, fulfillment, love, and family time. That's the true success. So as I'm talking all of that, now I'm saying, okay, when you can really break it down into, and then you go, okay, I can actually do that. I could sell 17 sessions at $499 a month, 17 of the thousands of people I know, then it becomes why not? Your thoughts, Andrew.
Yeah, well, in the Global Figure Success podcast, I had you, and I also had a guy named Asfala. He was a Rhodes Scholar, and he's a Rhodes Scholar in business, and he said he liked it because the money is a byproduct of the value that you're giving the market.
That's
And he
right.
said the money is just really a scoreboard to see whether you're actually providing value to people. People don't buy things that they don't think are worth, and it's going to benefit them.
That's
So
right.
we're not talking about money as a primary thing, but we're seeing it as a byproduct of people's lives being enriched and being impacted positively
That's
by
right.
the thing that you're providing them. So if you're providing them a solution, the greater the solution and I guess the bigger the problem and the bigger the solution, the bigger then the byproduct, which is the value exchange.
That's
And
right.
so
And the value. Go ahead. Continue, please.
No. I'm just saying the same thing, man. And so that's where it's hard if you're doing it in the volunteer space. Volunteering is critical. It makes the world go round.
Right, right, right.
Critical space for it. But in the things that I was doing, I didn't know whether they actually valued it because they wouldn't put anything down. Like I'd go to organizations and they'll say, yeah, well, yeah, is it free? So
Right,
then
right.
it is, but it's actually going to impact your business so much if you understand how to engage with the community properly.
That's right.
But if you're not going to put anything down, then you're not really committed to what I'm offering, and then therefore you're not really in a state that it's going to make any difference. And so by putting a price tag on it, it kind of shows me as the person who's offering a service, are they actually aligned to what? Yeah. Are they serious, and are they aligned to my philosophy, to why I'm providing the service? Because, man, otherwise it's really hard to push. You can't push a service in where it's not wanted.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So in that, where would you like to sum up? Tell us what you're doing right now, because we've gotten to the segment now where you tell your message to the world. But can we put a cap on where you are currently and make sure that everybody knows exactly what you're currently doing in your current projects before we get into your message to the world? Please, Andrew.
Yeah, so we have first up we have a community organization called Pasifika, and initially it was created to support Pasifika people in Australia to thrive. Australian population of Pacific people is just kind of emerging. New Zealand is very dense, and so there's not as many services here as there are there. So we're doing mentoring in schools, we're doing mentoring in community, we're doing different programs. We create strategies for government, and we've also got a research center. So my wife, Nicola, she has a PhD in public health, and she's really interested in research and evaluation. So she's kind of leading that with a few friends, Eden and Valami and Oswin and other people. But that's what's happening on that side. And then on the private entity side, I've got a consultancy company called 3Wise Group, and 3Wise really stands for all of our kids are named after the gifts to Jesus. And so that's my wife and I's company. And then I also have another company in recruitment, and we're doing other things in child protection, etc. And that's with a couple who are good mates of ours, Francis and Rena, and so we're kind of spread across those entities.
And Francis and Rena, what are, so we got Mana Pasifika, 3Wise, and Francis and Rena. What are they running? What's the name of that?
So we're running Rinnick. It's kind of those schoolyard things. Rena plus Nicola, we kind of shortened it and called it Rinnick, and that's a recruitment company and a labor hire company.
That's awesome. So in that, With all the wealth of experience, the amazing legacy that your forefathers put down, and then what your mom and dad really, in terms of the powerful cultural and success lessons that they were uh, really trying to instill in you, and then also making the sacrifices for you. What is the overall message from Andrew Faavale to the world? What is the world message? What would you like to make sure that the world should know from Andrew? Take 2 to 3 minutes and take your time also.
Ah, man, you know, I'd rather take it straight from the source. And so everything that I'm doing is inspired by Romans 12:2. And that says, do not conform to the ways of the world, but be transformed
By the
by the renewing,
renewing of your mind.
so that you can attest to the good and pleasing will of God. And so, really, if you think about it from a psychological perspective, you think of cognitive behavior theory, it's how you think, it's how you feel is how you act. And, so we're talking about actions, but again, we come back to how you think. And so identity, I do a lot of things with Pacific people, and identity is at the crux. Simon Sinek has popularized with a why, but I think we as Pacific people really start with the who. And when we know who we are, and we know whose we are, we know our identity in culture, but also in the kingdom, then the actions are just going to easily flow. Because when you know who you are, you also know the duty that comes with it. And you can't ignore that duty, because grace is not a thing that you get and you keep and you hold. Grace is a thing that you get and empowers you to go out and give. So it's that thing around, it's like marketing. It's not about you, but it's about you. Grace is that thing. And so that's where we're at. And, in the Psalms, they say, as a man thinketh in his heart, he is. Yeah. And so we think, so is it really mental, because it says in his heart for purpose. And so we just think about the alignment of how are we thinking, the transforming of our minds, but also the transforming of our hearts and our souls, and the alignment of that. And what will flow out of that is something so powerful. When I'm doing training, especially for Pacific people, I always ask them, do you know how an elephant is trained in the circus? And it's about when they're young, they put a rope around their neck and they connect it to a stake in the ground.
That small, tiny rope.
That's right. And every time that elephant tries to move, he gets hurt. And over the years, that elephant is conditioned and programmed to know, I just should not move. But the irony of it is, it's the largest creature in that whole circus. It can actually smash that whole thing up. It has intrinsic, if it had the intrinsic power with the physical power aligned, it can actually escape from the circus and be who it's supposed to be. And I kind of sometimes, and I'm not trying to be diminishing, denigrating of our people. I think we're the circus elephant, man. We're actually, I've lived in many places in the world, and I've had the privilege and pleasure of living in the UK and Hong Kong and the UAE and here in Australia and New Zealand. And everywhere I go, man, Pacific people are, everyone gravitates towards them. There's just this aura about Pacific people. And I don't think we know the power that's within us, or the power that attracts other people to us. And I think we're sitting in the circus, cracking up, some jokes, having a few, moments of banter, but we actually have the power to rock this thing up, man, and revolutionize how things are done.
Powerful. Powerful. So now let's go. So that's your message to the world. I mean, so powerful. Be not conformed. Do not conform, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Also, that is juice. That is fire. And that's truth. That is so true. So I love that. In that, let's go shout outs. You already started shouting out your team, but please do it one more time. Starting with your wife, shout out whoever it is that you want to shout out. And then also please make sure that we, the listening audience, know how to follow you, subscribe to what you're doing, all of those things, your email. I mean, you could give your email if you want, but your website and all of your social media handles.
Yeah, man. So obviously it starts with family. So I'm really grateful for my parents and my siblings. My wife, Nicola, we've been married for a little while now, and she's pregnant again. So we've got Auro, Faavale, and Selimaya, 2 girls and a boy. And we've got another girl arriving in July. And we're just grateful to God. And in terms of the other side, yeah, Mana's Eden and Val. Rennick is Rena and Francis. And then, I just have a tight bunch of friends here, Daniel, Tuamoala, and Osman Faya. These are the guys who really hold me accountable, and they sharpen me, as you always say, iron sharpens iron. I only have a small crew, man, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm happy with that. I don't need that many people, but I just need really quality people to help me stay in lane. And so, yeah, I'm just really grateful for those people. And on terms of websites, Mana is mana.org.au. Rennick is Rennick, RINNIK.com.au. And then 3Wise Group is number 3, WG.com.au. But man, it's I'm thankful for all those people. But man, it's really not about trying to publicize what I'm doing. It's really just about having this conversation. And just grateful to be on your platform, bro. And I know you're doing great things out there in the States. Grateful to have you and Q on my podcast. And man. So thanks for having me. Thanks for your time.
And in that, can you give us a sneak peek into the future? Like what's coming next? Is there anything new that we should be looking out for? Tell us anything that Rennick, that Pasifika, and 3Wise, anything that you're. Let's launch it right here on the Coach V Show. What do you got? You got something new? Anything coming out? Or is there anything that you're excited about? Please, Andrew.
Yeah, definitely excited, man. Excited about the opportunities in the Pacific. One of my good friends is from PNG. And, Papua New Guinea, if you think about the Pacific, it's the largest landmass there. There's 8 to 9 million people there. People kind of underestimate the grandiose of this place. I think, man, it's so interesting in terms of the vastness, but also the diversity in there. So, yeah, I've been having chats around, just doing things around I'd love to go out to the Pacific region and do many of the things that I'm doing here. But really, everything is the common thread that goes through everything is that Romans 12:2. And so however I do it, man, it doesn't really matter the avenues that I do it, but that's the thing that has to underpin it, and that's the thing that has to be motivating it.
Man, Andrew, what I've always felt this about you, and it just shows that we just need to connect more often. The way it is that you articulate makes it to where anything that's already a status quo or an elitist, they will open up their heart, mind, and soul to you. And then because you got that vibe of how just to shoot and be part of the circus, but you also come and you are always so focused on the data driven, and then also what works. Because if this doesn't work, whether it's a Pasifika approach or not, like that's what I just honor. And I'm just like so impressed about you from when I was on your show. Because in media, we talk this way, like me and Q, we're always talking about numbers, stats, data, and all that. And I'm an ex-football guy, so it's all about data. If the numbers don't, if the money and the timing don't account to what I think is going to work, then I'm not in on that, right? But like there is, in the Southern Hemisphere, I hear so much of our Pasifika people talking with such academic intelligence, articulation, data-driven, with still the same care and affection and heart and soul that makes Pasifika Pasifika. You know, that's why Ohana, you know, I just came back from Hawaii, and everything here is Dwayne Johnson, the young Dwayne Johnson, you know, that whole, but really that really is a characteristic of good people. But it is associated to Pasifika people. So I just really applaud you, everything that you're doing. I am coming down there. We're going to do some things. I don't know what, but like you said, if God leads it and God approves it, then we got to get going on that. So thank you so much for coming on the show. We got about 2 minutes left for Coach V hot seat. And in this segment, I'm just going to say a couple of quotes and I'm going to find out. And the listening audience is going to hear what Andrew has top of mind. When I say, Andrew, this term, the oceans do not separate us. It is the great Pacific and the oceans that connect all of the people of the planet. What do you think?
And I just think what Professor Epeli Ho'ofset thought when he wrote that, and it's that, you know, we're not we're not islands in a far sea. We're connected by the ocean, and so the centrality of the ocean, rather than the smallness of our islands, actually impacts our thought patterns. And that's what he was saying.
Yes.
He was saying, if you frame us by the smallness of our islands,
that's
we
right.
will then
That's right.
walk in the smallness of our identity. But the reason why he wanted to call us oceanic people was because he wanted the ocean to be the center of who we are, and the vastness and the grandiose of that ocean to be what motivates us to stand up, puff our chests out, put our shoulders back, and walk through like an elephant in the free.
That's right. No, I love that. I love that and what you're saying on that. And the fact that you know who wrote it and you know the reason, you know the thesis, the theory, and the paper that was written. Because you're my guy like that. You just kind of know it like that. And then lastly, instead of asking another question, what are your final thoughts? Let's just end it there. What is Andrew Faavale's final thoughts for the people?
Man, my final thoughts are that we have to believe that we have a destiny and design in life. And when we believe that we have a destiny and design in life, we just have to align ourselves with the designer and walk that out. And sometimes walking that out means we've got to do things that are uncomfortable, that look overwhelming, that look too much for us to bear. But I think if we don't empty the tank here on earth in our last days, that will be the biggest regret. And so design and destiny, I think, didn't end up here by accident, and we need to fall into heaven exhausted, bro.
Man, I just want to thank the man of Mana Pasifika, Three Wise, and Rennick, and including his entire team. Shout out to the entire team. I look forward to being down there in Australia with all of you in the very near future. On behalf of myself and Andrew Faavale, we want to just sign out and saying a shout out to all the Pasifika people out there, and thank everyone for listening to the Coach V Show here, powered by Island City, where the beach meets the streets. If you haven't checked us out on YouTube, please do so on the Coach V YouTube channel, and please subscribe, like, tell me what you didn't like, tell me what I missed, tell me what I should be asking the guests, and I will be sure to make adjustments in the future. So thank you, Andrew, for coming on the show, and thank you for everybody for tuning in. It is of great importance for each of us to better ourselves, but not just for the sake of achieving success, but for the sake of being our best. In doing so, we realize the best of our abilities, and that everything and anything that we dream, hope, and pray for can be achieved. This is how this success coach, keynote speaker, Hollywood radio show host, and author lives, all about faith and family. Grateful for God's amazing grace. Until next time, tune in next Modern Motivation Monday to your radio show for personal development here on the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron. Together we rise. From Brother Andrew down in the Southern Hemisphere, and your boy Coach V. One love, mad respects always. Peace.